All right, let's dive into this. Emotional frequencies. Sounds kind of woo-woo, right?
Yeah, a little bit.
But the source we're looking at today, it's got some surprisingly practical stuff in it.
It really does.
We're talking about emotions as energy, each one vibrating at its own specific frequency.
And how we can learn to shift those frequencies to, create a better life.
Yeah, exactly. And I think what's really interesting is how the source goes beyond just think positive.
Totally. It gets into how emotions like fear actually vibrate at a way lower frequency than, say, courage.
Oh, interesting.
And that lower frequency can explain why fear can feel so heavy,
Oh,
debilitating.
Oh, I have totally felt that heaviness, like when you're facing some huge challenge and the fear just kind of sucks all the energy out of the room.
Exactly. That's what the source is getting at. It's like emotions are this energetic music constantly playing in the background of our lives.
Mm. Almost like you can feel the frequency drop.
Right. And just like how music can totally change your mood.
Yeah.
Our emotions are kind of doing that all the time, whether we realize it or not.
Okay, so if we're always swimming in these emotional frequencies, how do we even become aware of them?
Good question.
It's not like we have some emotional frequency meter, right?
Well, not a literal one,
Right.
but the source does say that practices like mindfulness and meditation are key.
Right. But sometimes that stuff can be kind of intimidating.
Oh, for sure.
Is there a simpler way to start tuning into our emotional state without having to, become a meditation master?
Oh, absolutely.
Hmm.
Even just taking a few moments to consciously breathe and pay attention to your body,
Really?
it can be surprisingly effective.
Huh.
Do you want to try a quick exercise together?
Sure, why not? I could use a little grounding.
Great. So let's just take a few deep breaths together. Inhale slowly through your nose, feeling your belly expand. And then exhale slowly through your mouth. As you breathe, just notice any sensations in your body. Maybe there's some tension in your shoulders or tightness in your chest, or maybe a sense of lightness and ease. Just observe. No right or wrong.
Wow.
Yeah.
I can actually feel a difference. Just a few conscious breaths, and I already feel a bit more centered and aware.
See? It's that simple.
Wow.
And the more you practice this mindful awareness, the better you'll get at recognizing those emotional frequencies.
Okay, so let's say we're getting better at being aware of our emotional frequencies.
Right.
How do we actually shift them to a higher, more positive level? We can't just snap our fingers and go from anxious to blissful.
Right. Not magically, no.
Right.
But the source has some surprisingly practical tools for this. One of the big things they talk about is the power of consciously choosing your thoughts.
Instead of getting caught up in negative self-talk, I'm not good enough, all that.
Exactly. Like replacing that with something more empowering.
So, I am capable and resourceful.
Yes. Or even something specific to whatever you're facing. Maybe it's, I trust my intuition, or I'm making the best decision I can right now.
Hmm.
It's about choosing thoughts that line up with the emotional frequency you want.
Okay.
Yeah. Like you're the DJ of your own emotional radio station.
I like that. So it's not just about positive thinking for the sake of it. It's about actually picking thoughts that match your goals and values.
Exactly.
Being the DJ of our emotional radio station.
Yes. And another track you could add to that playlist, gratitude.
Oh, yeah.
The source talks about how gratitude can actually raise your vibration.
It's funny. I used to think gratitude was kind of a fluffy concept, but I've been trying this gratitude journal thing lately, and I gotta say, it's been pretty powerful.
Really? What have you noticed?
Well, just taking a few minutes every day to write down things I'm grateful for, it's
Yeah.
it's shifted my whole perspective.
No.
I'm focusing more on the good stuff and feeling less overwhelmed by all the, challenges.
That's what the source is saying too. Gratitude helps us shift our focus from what's missing to what we already have.
Yeah.
And that can really change how we feel.
It's like you're retraining your brain to see the good stuff instead of getting stuck in the negative.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's not just about our thoughts either. The source also talks a lot about surrounding yourself with positive influences.
Oh, right. Like spending time with people who lift you up.
Yeah. And avoiding those who drain your energy.
It's like curating your emotional support crew.
Exactly. The source actually calls it our emotional ecosystem.
Oh, interesting.
The network of relationships, environments, and information we expose ourselves to.
Right.
And they say all of that has a direct impact on how we feel.
I can definitely see that. When I'm around people who are always complaining or gossiping, it totally brings me down.
For sure.
But when I'm with friends who are positive and supportive, I feel energized and inspired.
It's like emotions are contagious almost.
Yeah.
So being mindful of the company we keep and the places we spend time, it really matters.
So we've got choosing our thoughts, practicing gratitude, and surrounding ourselves with good vibes.
Right.
But what about those times when you're really stuck in a low-frequency emotion? Like when
Mhm.
you're dealing with stress, anxiety, anger, all that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Does the source have anything to say about those tougher emotions?
They do, actually. They argue that unexpressed emotions can create these energetic blockages in our bodies.
Whoa, energetic blockages. That sounds kind of intense.
Well, think about it like this.
Okay.
When we go through tough emotions, our body naturally responds with tension,
Right, right.
tightness. It's a survival mechanism.
Okay.
But sometimes, if we don't process or release those emotions, they get stuck,
Oh.
and that creates a kind of energetic knot.
So a tangled ball of yarn. But instead of yarn, it's emotions.
Yeah, it's a great analogy. And these knots, they can show up as chronic pain, fatigue, digestive issues, even recurring emotional patterns.
So those tangled up emotions can actually affect our physical well-being.
They can.
Wow. So how do we untangle those emotional knots? What does the source say?
They suggest a couple of things. One is conscious movement, like yoga, tai chi, or even dancing.
Oh, I love that. I always feel so much lighter after a good yoga class.
Right, you're literally shaking off the stress and tension.
Yeah.
They also talk about the power of breath work for releasing those stuck emotions.
Oh, right. Breath work. I've heard of that.
Yeah, they specifically mention alternate nostril breathing.
Isn't that supposed to be really calming and balancing?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's where you use your fingers to alternate, closing off one nostril while you inhale and exhale. It's supposed to regulate your nervous system, bring you a sense of peace.
That sounds like something I could actually try.
Yeah.
It's way less intimidating than like full-on meditation.
Oh, for sure. And they even say just simple deep breathing can be super effective.
Really?
Yeah, like just taking a few deep breaths throughout the day. It can make a huge difference.
Like hitting the reset button.
Exactly. The key is to become aware of your breath. Use it as a tool to calm your mind. Release that tension.
Okay, so we've got movement, breath work, but what about dealing with all the ups and downs of life?
Yeah.
How do we build that like emotional resilience so we don't get totally derailed when things get tough?
That's where emotional resilience comes in. The source defines it as the ability to bounce back from those challenges without getting stuck in the low-frequency stuff.
So it's not about avoiding negative emotions completely.
Right.
It's about learning to like deal with them in a healthier way.
Exactly. And they suggest some practical strategies for that. One is self-regulation.
Self-regulation, what is that exactly?
It's basically developing the ability to manage your emotional responses in a way that's good for you.
So like having tools to stay grounded and centered even when things are crazy.
Exactly. The source talks about things like grounding, where you connect with your physical senses to bring yourself back to the present moment.
Oh, right.
They also talk about visualization and positive self-talk.
Visualization, I've actually used that before, like to calm my nerves before a big presentation or something.
That's great.
Yeah.
It's all about using your imagination to create a better experience.
Okay, so grounding, visualization, positive self-talk.
Right.
Those are all good tools for resilience.
Yeah.
Anything else the source recommends?
Another big one is building a strong support network.
Oh, yeah, like having
Yeah.
people you can lean on when you're going through something tough.
Exactly. The source argues that sense of belonging, connection, that's essential for navigating life's challenges.
Yeah, totally. Sometimes just talking to a friend or a loved one can make all the difference.
For sure. And it's not just about receiving support either, it's also about giving it.
Oh, interesting.
The source says acts of kindness, compassion, those can raise your vibration too.
So it's a win-win. Helping others helps us feel better.
Exactly. And you know what else can lift our spirits?
What's that?
The source talks about how our physical environment can affect how we feel.
You mean like our homes and workplaces and stuff?
Yeah. Think about it. Have you ever noticed how being in a cluttered room makes you feel anxious?
Oh, totally. When my desk is a mess, my mind feels messy. I get overwhelmed.
Right. And then a bright, sunny space can instantly boost your mood.
Oh, for sure. I'm definitely drawn to those bright, airy spaces. Makes me feel lighter, you know?
It's fascinating, right?
Yeah.
It's not just aesthetics either. The source even talks about the energy of crystals.
Crystals. Okay, that's where it gets a little woo-woo for me.
I get it.
I'm not sure about the whole crystal healing thing.
But even if you don't buy into all that, they can still be pretty, right?
Yeah.
And if having a crystal on your desk makes you feel good, why not?
Yeah, that's a good point. Maybe I'll give it a try. See if there's something to this energy thing.
It's worth exploring. And, it's not just our surroundings.
What else?
The source also talks about the power of sound.
Sound. Like listening to calming music.
Yeah. But they actually get into the whole concept of sound healing.
Oh, wow. Sound healing.
Yeah, using specific frequencies and vibrations to, like, promote healing and balance.
Okay, now that is interesting. I've always been kind of curious about how that works.
Well, they say certain sounds and music can actually lift your mood, raise your vibration. Like listening to high-frequency music.
High-frequency music, like what?
Classical, ambient, even binaural beats.
Oh, yeah. Binaural beat. Don't those, like, sync your brainwave?
Exactly. They create this cool 3D audio effect. Super relaxing.
Yeah.
Can even be meditative.
I'm gonna have to check that out. I'm always looking for new ways to, like, chill out.
Right.
What else do they say about sound healing?
They mentioned using things like singing bowls, tuning forks, chimes.
Oh, I love singing bowls.
Yeah, they have such a peaceful sound. And even chanting, singing mantras, they say, can be powerful too. It's about finding what resonates with you.
Yeah, like finding the soundtrack that helps you create the feeling you want.
Exactly. And speaking of connection, the source also emphasizes the impact of relationships.
Relationships. You mean like the people we spend time with?
Yes. They say to really pay attention to how you feel around different people.
Like if I start feeling drained or tense when I'm with a certain friend, that's a sign that something's off.
Exactly. It's like our emotions are giving us clues. The source suggests we use those clues to make smarter choices about how we spend our time and who we're with.
So if I always feel anxious at work, maybe it's time to rethink my job.
Right. Or if you feel amazing after being in nature, maybe you need more of that in your life.
It's like our emotions are a compass, pointing us towards the people and places that are good for us.
I love that. That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
It's about being intentional with our choices. Not just our thoughts and actions, but also our company and the environments we create.
It's like we're the architects of our own emotional reality.
Exactly. And I think that's a perfect segue to the last key point from the source.
Oh, what is it?
They say that, shifting our emotional frequency, it's a journey. It's not a destination.
So it's not about reaching some perfect state of bliss all the time.
Right.
Thank goodness. That sounds exhausting.
I know, right? Life is full of ups and downs. It's normal to feel all sorts of emotions.
Right.
The goal isn't to avoid the negative ones, but to learn to handle them better.
And to be kind to ourselves in the process.
Yes. Self-compassion is huge. The source encourages us to celebrate every little bit of progress and to approach this whole thing with curiosity and a sense of play.
Yeah, it's easy to get discouraged if you don't see results right away.
For sure.
But it's about those small steps, experimenting, finding what works.
Exactly. And remember, your emotional frequency is constantly giving you feedback. It's a way to understand yourself better, to know what you need.
So paying attention to how we feel, that's key. Like in different situations, around certain people, even during activities.
Exactly. It's your inner compass. If something feels draining, maybe it's time to step back.
Right.
And if something feels good, lean into it.
I love that. Our emotions are guiding us towards what's good for us.
They are. So as we wrap up this deep dive, think about all the things we've talked about today.
Wow, we've covered a lot. Mindfulness, breath work, gratitude, creating that positive support system.
It's been quite a journey.
It really has. And the big takeaway for me is that we have more power over our emotions than we think.
I agree.
It's not about denying our emotions, but understanding them, managing them.
Becoming the conscious creators of our own emotional reality.
Yes. I love that.
Me too.
Well, this has been incredible. I feel like I have a whole new perspective on emotions.
Me too.
Yeah.
And I think we've covered a lot, but there's one more thing the source emphasizes that I want to mention before we finish. It's all about paying attention to how we feel around certain people, places, even activities.
Okay, so like if I start feeling all drained and tense when I'm with a certain friend, that's a sign something's not right. Like my emotions are telling me something about that relationship.
Exactly. It's like our emotions are this built-in guidance system. The source says we can use that feedback to be more mindful about how we spend our time and who we spend it with.
So like if I'm always anxious at work, maybe it's time to look for a new job or at least find ways to make my work environment less stressful.
Yeah, exactly. Or say you always feel super energized after spending time in nature.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe that means you need to get outside more.
It's like our emotions are a compass, pointing us towards the people and places that are actually good for us.
I love that. Perfect way to put it. And I think that's a great place to wrap things up.
This deep dive has been amazing. I feel like I've learned so much about how powerful our emotions are and how we can use them to create a better life.
Me too. It's been a fascinating exploration.
So for our listeners out there, what's the one thing you hope they take away from all of this?
I hope they realize that they have more control over how they feel than they might think. Even small changes in their thinking, their habits, their environment,
Yeah.
it can make a huge difference.
And that they don't have to do it alone. There are so many tools and resources out there to help them.
Absolutely. A whole world of support.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us. It's been a pleasure diving deep with you today.
The pleasure was all mine.
And to everyone listening, thanks for joining us on this journey. We hope you've discovered some new ways to harness the power of your own emotional frequency. Until next time, keep vibrating high.